morning once again and welcome back to New Day. It is now time for our business segment, and like you saw from the video there, we will be talking about the Central Region, which is said to be the hub of education in Ghana. But why then is it that it's struggling to shine as a beacon of economic growth and development in Ghana? Now I have with me in the studio today the founder and CEO of Youth Enhancement International, which is an NGO, Mr. Stephen J.C. Cole. And then also Dr. Theophilus E. Richardson, who is from the University of Education, Winneba, and is also an economist and a social policy analyst. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Good morning, thanks.
Okay, Doc, I'll start with you. Why do you think that, or what role can all these, we saw some very influential people in the video there who attended school in the Central Region. What role do you think that they can play to help advance the economic fortunes of the region? Or have they?
All right. Thanks so much for this wonderful opportunity to talk on this platform on such a very important topic. That in spite of the fact that Central Region is, as it is claimed, the start of education in Ghana, it is one of the poorest regions in the country, following up to the three northern regions. So there is a paradox here. Why? Because there is an established correlation between education and economic growth. All right. But what that theory or theoretical formulation says is that education brings about increase in skill, knowledge and skill, and with that knowledge and skill, through R&D, that research and development, you can achieve technical progress and innovation, and that will bring about increases in economic growth. And with increases in economic growth, there will be high per capita income, and therefore inequality will be reduced, and the society will prosper. What many of us did not know is that this works only when the society has been able to achieve a certain critical minimum level of capital formation, which induces a sustained growth in the growth trend, or the rate of what I'll call the capital, the potential output. So the capacity of the economy to produce in the long term, expands over time, and it is when we have set conditions that the benefits of knowledge and skills accumulated over time, through education, and which fosters research and development, can, enhance or augment prosperity. So we don't have that condition, and the fact that we do have education in facilities in Central Region is one thing. Achieving economic prosperity is also another thing, and we must not confuse and conflict the two. And we saw personalities like Kofi Annan and others. Yes, they are busy attending Mfantsipim. Most of the schools in Central Region were established by private individuals. They were purely private initiatives. Mfantsipim, established by John Mensah Saba and Reverend Lockhart of the Methodist Church. St. Nicholas College, now Adisadal, was also a private initiative. And the missionaries came in and established St. Augustine's Holy Child by the Catholic Church, and all the schools in Cape Coast, they are all private initiative. And so it goes. The Winneba Secondary School was started as a private initiative at the present site of the South Campus. Before it was transferred, it's relocated to its present, site under the Education Trust and financed by the Nkrumah administration, being one of the many secondary schools established. But it was started by private individuals. So the problem there is that, one, there are schools in the Central Region, but most of the indigents are unable to have access to these schools,
so especially
for some time.
People come outside of the region.
Yes, to be educated. And even where the indigents, the indigenous people of Central Region had access to these schools, that ceased, at some point in time in our in the development of our country, purely for reasons having to do with the ability to finance the awards, that is having financial access, the result of poverty, and partly the result of even lack of facilities or neglect, and partly the result of socio-economic, attitudes and beliefs. So a number of factors. I think over time there has been several years of neglect by government of Central Region. Why? Because there has been the assumption that Central Region has it all. Central Region has one of the best schools, including a university in Cape Coast. Winneba has a university, Swedru Business School, which was attended by Achampo, which was also a private initiative. So Central Region has it all. So let's look at other regions, and that has led to the neglect of that region in terms of the provision of educational facilities, and also in terms of addressing the fundamental, objective, socio-economic circumstances of the people over several years, in our post-independence life. And I think we need to take time and then, delve into these matters seriously.
Okay, now Stephen, Doc has made a very clear point. Do you agree that there's really a clear correlation between the education and the poverty in the region?
You see, let's look at it from this perspective. Yes, I believe that education plays a very important role in driving economic growth everywhere. But the question you have to ask yourself is that what type of education are we giving to the people? What is the substance of the education? Like Cape Coast, that he was saying, yes, it's got all the universities. What is it that the universities or the polytechnics that are over there, the senior secondary schools, are doing to attract people that if I go to Kivas and I finish Kivas and maybe I come up with an innovation, I need to be able to put that innovation in Cape Coast, that I can establish something over there that can create jobs for people and help the economic prosperity of Cape Coast. That's the things we have to look at it very, very well. In terms of like dedication, if we're training people to be very more innovative, creative, how are they leveraging on the resources they have within Cape Coast? Tourism. What are we creating within there to accelerate growth within the sector that will create jobs? And for economic growth to work, yes, it takes players to make it happen. The government, the private sector, the academia, they play a very important role in making this become a reality. So I think we have to look at it. You say like people like the Kofi Annans, yes, what now we can tap from those people? Yes, they've gone out there, they've got all the skills, the talent. The question is about how do they give back? But it has to come from the local people. I always believe in the indigenous people that you take ownership of your region. Right, it's Central Region is your region. How do you want to see? What is the vision? Where do you want to take Central Region? And it's the people of Central Region that have to ensure that things are done right, both from the government's perspective and the private sector. But it's all about building a whole enabling environment for these things to work. Yes, government needs to bring good policies in place so that private sectors can also make sure that they drive certain big businesses over in Cape Coast. Academia, how are they advancing? He said something about research, R&D. Tell me how many research, there's a lot of research that goes on within our tertiary institution. How do we commercialize that onto the market? These are things that we have to look at it critically, that if maybe a final year student in Kevas or something or Polytechnic over there come up with an innovation, how does the institution support that innovation to drive it from development stage, to commercialize it so that we can create something? If they become a factory over there, they're manufacturing something in Cape Coast, yes, the people in the indigenous are going to get jobs to do. So these are the things that we have to look at it holistically and work together, as collective partners to make sure you build that up. Because if you don't tackle the issue from the base of the pyramid, it's going to become
so basically, Steve, what you're saying is that the region is not attractive enough to attract or draw in business opportunities?
It is not that it is not attractive. Yes, it is attractive enough. There's a lot of I schooled in Cape Coast. All right, there's a lot of things, especially like tourism, as you may say. It's attractive, but how are you empowering the people, the local people, to be able to identify that opportunities and giving them that helping hand to turn those opportunities to wealth for themselves and also advance economic standards?
What do you think can be done about that?
To me, my whole thing, not only about Central Region as a nation, is that approach of like driving a kind of entrepreneurial economy is what that can spark the growth and create the jobs we want. People have to be more enterprising. And when I say someone is enterprising, you can be here as a presenter, and here, being enterprising about you starting your company, but what innovation, what are you bringing, what value are you bringing to TV3? What innovations are you bringing to TV3? So this is what we have to train our people in school, in our education system. You know, not too much of theoretical things. It's like pass your exams and get your qualification and go out. Now, every business needs somebody who is very competitive. You know, you have to bring something on the plate to make sure that, yes, you're going to let us achieve our profitability. You're going to bring something that into the business that will get us to be on top of our game. But it has to start from our schools. People need to understand, you know, I don't need to get to university to start learning about innovation. I don't need to get to Polytechnic before I start to know about entrepreneurship or things about business. When I was in primary school, I was exposed to enterprise. You know, this can be done through campaigns, competitions. There are a lot of ways that we can do this. And it's some of the things that I always say, don't let us reinvent wheels. The economies that have used those models, that has worked. I'm not saying we should replicate exactly that, but look at the models, what we can pick up to it and make sure it works. So in a nutshell, Central Region is something that we have to look at it in total. There's opportunity there, but how do we get people to turn those opportunities to wealth creation and create and advance themselves?
So you think we need to brand and market the Central Region properly?
It's all part of it. They have to be, I think they already have economic strategy plan, but how are we executing it? You see, we live in a country whereby all the time, yes, we drafting policies, we drafting program, but do we even execute those policies to see did it work or did it not work? Right. You understand? And the speed at which we get up to do things. The whole thing, we have to change the way we do things, you know, and make sure that we do things and get very good for things out of it.
Now, speaking of policies, Doc, the government offers tax incentives for companies that set up their business outside of the capital. Why do you think people are not taking this opportunity to set up businesses in the Central Region?
Before I come to that, if I can make a very simple observation.
Please do.
Right. Why are we discussing Central Region and no other region? We are discussing Central Region because there has been this assumption that, as I indicated, Central Region had it all, and therefore Central Region has many educated, indigents, and so if education or higher education is positively associated with higher earnings, then the individuals from Central Region, must earn more. And even if they should give some of their earnings to their family members or friends who are not doing well, then overall, the level of consumption and prosperity, it will trickle down. Thank you. Rising the rising waves, lifting the boat. But this assumption is being wrong and for a faulty one. Central Region has schools, but it does not necessarily follow that the schools benefited the indigenous people. And if I've indicated, even if that happened, it did cease, at some point in time.
Why was that?
Why? Because to be able to send your child to school, you need to pay school fees. And to be able to pay school fees, you must earn a certain income. And that goes, to the fundamentality, the livelihoods of the people. If you take those along the coast, they are fishermen, and they are not, let me say, industrial fishermen, like they are farmers. They are peasants.
Yes, apparently agriculture is one of the main activities.
Yes, so I come to the fishermen of Winneba, of Apam, of Dego, all those places. They are vulnerable to all the vicissitudes, of their trade. If there's no bumper harvest, there is problem. The men get the catch, they give them to their wives, the wives do whatever to them, and use the money to take care of them. If there is no catch, the man is poor, the woman is poor. Between the ages of 22 or 18 and say 50 years, when he goes to the sea for a catch, that is the time he's productive. After that year, the man has no pension, he's not productive, and it's really dehumanizing if you are intimated with the daily experiences of the people. So there's a lot of poverty even along the coast. If you go to the land where there is farming, like farmers generally in Ghana, they are peasants. Only a few are Sami peasants. What does it mean? They do not produce for the market. They do not invest labor and capital, in their businesses. and they are exposed to all the the risks and uncertainties associated with peasant farming. Only in a few places that we have cocoa, in the Aguna area, and certain parts of Ejumako, Abra, and even cocoa production is not popular. Cocoa production collapsed in the mid-70s, around 76, when there was drought, and that was exacerbated by the 1983 bushfire. From that time on, most of them could not get the capital to reinvest in their cocoa, okay? And so they went into food production, and it has not been good. So this is a region, and if regions of the country, and the central region one was called Seredek, all right? And they invested in oil palm plantation. So we have the Chifu oil palm plantation, a number of them, all right? But even these oil palm plantations did not directly benefit the people. It did indirectly, though, as outgrowers. But as outgrowers, they were solely dependent on the big plantations for the sale of their. So somehow they were peasantized, because they didn't, which means that they did not have control over the disposal of their produce, and that affected their earnings. So, and we know what happened to the oil palm industry over time. So a number of factors have come together to contribute to the widespread and endemic poverty in the region. And it's with the socio-economic attitude. I had friends whose fathers were fishermen. But when school fees were introduced, most of them fell out. They did not continue at the middle school. I mean, while the father goes to the fish, there's a catch, and he can get some money. He's good, so he wouldn't want to go to school. And why would the father also spend money to pay for school fees when he is not sure that at the end of the middle school, his son will get a job? That was when our education ran into a crisis. At some point, there was a problem of, both quality and, marketability, competitiveness of certain graduates, at certain level, in the labor market. So a number of factors came together. What policies can be introduced to help the central region? That's the point. Well, fiscal policy plays a large role. And this goes for all the countries. Fortunately and happily, we have Savannah, the Accelerated Development Authority, a project line for the 3 northern regions because of the recognition of the widespread poverty in those regions. If indeed the central region is one of the poorest regions, in spite of the existence of educational facilities and all that, then the central region also needs, well-targeted, well-focused program to address the fundamental causes of poverty in that region. So if SADA is good for the northern regions, then something is also good for the central region. And I don't want to talk about the government, the country in general, because that will take us into the role of government policy. What has been the nature and the thrust of government fiscal policy and even monetary policy. The wide gamut of government, policies. And I don't want to go.
Okay, yes, actually we have run out of time, but this subject is so interesting that we will definitely have to bring you back to do a part 2 of it. Thank you ever so much, Dr. Theophilus Richardson, who is from the University of Education, Winneba, and is also an economist and a social policy analyst. Big thank you as well to Mr. Stephen Jessica. It has been very insightful, but we'll definitely have to come back to it. This has been the business segment right here on New Day, but do stay tuned. We still have a lot coming up.